All right, the Pete Souza Show presented by Slovacics. Also want to thank our sponsors, D1 Dallas, Crawford Austin Properties, Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers, Socorro Family Ford. We're switching now to a little Bob Knight. Now, the context on this is Michigan State, Tom Izzo, been trying to downplay being on the brink of passing Bob Knight's record for Big Ten basketball wins for a coach. Last night, of all teams, they lose to Indiana, 71-67. So Tom Izzo will have to wait until he can pass Bob Knight, probably a few days. But it brings into question, or at least for me, top of mind, Bob Knight and his legacy. And we're joined now by Tony Hayden, former college hoops player. Tony and I are the same age. Tony's not only a good friend, he's fam. Tony's fam, and but he played at Mount St. Mary's, Division I.
I played against Izzo, by the way, Pete.
What'd you say?
I played against Izzo, by the way.
You did play against Izzo in the NCAA tournament. You carried
99.
Yeah, 99.
Yep.
You took your team to the tournament.
And he was a new coach at that time, I think, right?
Yeah.
I think he said it was 30 years. He's been the head coach at Michigan State. So that was pretty interesting to learn that the other night. So he'd only been the coach, I think, for 4 or 5 years when I played against them.
Tony, how much faster was Michigan State than Mount St. Mary's?
Well, they were so much stronger. That was what, that's the thing about Izzo's teams. And they're kind of like Bobby Knight's teams, that he really gets kids to play hard and buy in to the system. So I was like you. I took a walk down memory lane and watched, the 30 for 30 about Bob Knight. And you come away feeling like complicated feelings about him after watching that. Even though I read what's the famous book that we both read? I read that
on the Brink.
I read Season on the Brink like in ninth grade, and I loved him at the time, even back then, and I loved him all the way through college, Bob Knight. But that show, you feel a little bit complicated about him. You know?
Okay, so you've got kids, you got boys in particular, and first of all, would you have been able to play for Bob Knight?
I think I would have liked it, but that's the thing. Like, not every kid's the same, so I think I would have gotten a lot out of it because I think what he's a master of. He's a lot like Izzo. And I think basketball is unique in this way where you can be the conductor, and if you're a strong conductor, there's only 5 guys on the court. So unlike football where there's 11 on both sides of the ball too, so there's 22 guys you have to kind of then it's I don't think it's as powerful, but in basketball, that strong personality, that strong conductor, the Patinos of the world, Izzos of the world, you can get guys to buy in and be really successful. The people who've made it, I think, through, where kids sort of changed a lot are Coach K, even Jay Wright. Jay Wright was a strong sort of authority figure that, people could really buy into. But both Coach K and Jay Wright, they were able to package it a lot better, I'd say, than Bobby Knight. Even Izzo, though. But Izzo's like that. Izzo, I think, has gotten a little more warm and fuzzy over the years.
When you watch,
I remember.
Hold on. When you watch that ESPN thing, right? Are you?
Yeah.
Is the old school in you? Are you? And this could be something that's wrong with me. That's why I almost think it should be me, you, and a therapist. Truly,
right?
because I watch that and I'm like, it's not that bad. Like,
no, I would have liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, like Scotty, put up that video, and I know Tony's watched this, but so this is the incident that really brought down Knight. And keep rolling this, Scotty, if you can, repeatedly. So, Tony, I went back and I watched Knight, the Neil Reed thing. Like that,
I did too. I just watched it too. Yep.
So, well, I watched this now. Neil Reed's walking across the court. And Knight is coming towards him. They're both moving kind of quickly, and he grabs his throat, but then it's over in like 2 seconds. I know it's wrong. I know he should be disciplined, but to paint him like Idi Amin, I think, is like a little extreme. And I almost think that iron fist approach is okay. I don't know. I don't even want to say it but I don't think it's like as terrible as people made it out to be. I think I would have responded to that. I do.
Well, and then I'll tell you what happens a lot as an athlete, and other athletes will say this too, and this may be a little unhealthy, but it is that when a guy like that, and this happened with Knight and it happens with Izzo, is that when they finally praise you for something, it's like it feels like something like you run through a brick wall for that person, for that coach. And all athletes understand it. It's because I think it's partly it's rooted in something that's true, which is that like they're not just giving out praise for nothing. So when you get it right, what the coach wanted, you feel so good about yourself. But I think the problem with it is that there is something a little bit controlling, manipulative about it that is not totally healthy. And I think there's some truth in the critic side too. Like people, I thought that after watching it as an adult and have my own kids, is that even though I would look back and say, man, I would have loved to play for someone like that, I can see that there's something not totally healthy about it also. And that it seems to me, he was sort of willing to cast you out if you were just not, you just like, we're never going to get it. And maybe that was the problem with Neil Reed. He was just the type of kid that wasn't going to work for him,
watching that. I would recommend people watch it. The Last Days of Night.
Yeah.
It is like radioactive. It's as far as like the emotions.
Unbelievable. I thought it was a great 30 for 30 because it has both sides of it. It shows you why he was such a great coach. But it also shows, even Feinstein said he's come around about that he, originally, that was a good foreword in the book recently that originally he did think that.
Not Last Days of Night, Season on the Brink, because you told me you listened to the audiobook again like 3 years ago. So I listened to it.
I did, and I felt differently about it. I did.
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
and maybe it was because like father and son. Like my dad loved Bobby Knight too, so that was part of it.
I mean, he was like there was a lot wrong with this guy. Like there
was a lot, but he was really charming, and that's where I could see that. My dad went and met him. We went to hear him speak here in Philadelphia, and we spoke to him afterwards. After the talk, just me, my dad. It was a great memory for me, and he was just unbelievably charming. And so I could see why he'd be so successful. That's why I think Gene Hackman played that role so amazingly in Hoosiers, because he was using Bobby Knight as the role model, and that's why Gene Hackman really nails that part so well. I think because
in the Last Days of Night, part of the the crux of the film leans on the media, right? And how important it is, because it's important to show this side of the bully. Like there was a lot of noise about Bob Knight and his behavior, and they were going to do this. They did the story on CNN on CNN without the video, and then they got the video, and once they got the video, it was game over for Bob Knight. And just to kind of go back in history, he was not fired. He was put on a zero tolerance
or something,
which he screwed up like a month or two later.
Well, I remember walking out of my meeting with Bob Knight with my dad, and my dad being like, "Man, that would have been so cool." And it's sort of like that's the thing that basketball's there's only 5 kids on the court, and if you can get your kids to buy into a system and get them all playing on the same page, you're gonna be successful, because there's only 5 guys out there, and the guys that can figure that out and how to do that and how to pull the strings are going to be the best coaches. That's why the guy was incredibly successful, obviously.
Well, after he gets done in Indiana, he's on ice for a year, and then he goes to Texas Tech for 7
and he was successful
seasons.
there.
Yeah, he took him
as an older, and he was. I mean, the times he won it, he had Isaiah Thomas and incredible players, but a lot of times he was winning with kind of rando Midwestern kids, but I'm not sure that style works today. That's why I think Izzo has evolved. By the way, when I remember standing next to Izzo, he was yelling at this kid who was on Michigan State, and it was the worst rant I've ever heard, ever. So Izzo is extremely tough, but he's a little more like Jay Wright, though, where he, I think he probably deals out more praise. And that's the thing, like, but everyone kind of knows that he cares a lot, he's doing this because he's trying to get the team, to become successful. And so I actually see Izzo and Knight sort of similar, but Izzo's just more evolved, with how he handles the kids. Where I think Knight would probably lock you out a little more.
Yeah. Do you feel like watching that that documentary? Like, is college basketball better for not having figures like Bob Knight involved today, or is it a little softer?
I think it's probably better. More I thought about it, but like I said, again, Jay Wright is tough. Coach K was extremely tough, and Pitino's extreme. So a lot of the Danny Hurley's extremely tough. So those guys, they have this sort of secret sauce. All those guys. I mean, if you think about it, there aren't that many really, really successful coaches that are kind of do it in more of a. I'm trying to think of the right word for.
Well, they can do it with they can scrap together teams, right? Like Pitino. I mean, what do you think about his success at St. John's? What does that say about him as a coach?
Well, no, and I think if you've noticed this, he's always been successful at the college level. He's never been that great at the pro level, and I think it's because once the guys are pros, they're making a lot of money, when you see, the thing about basketball is that you got to get guys to play tough defense, and the only way you're going to get people to have the stamina to do that is by training. And so you really got to push yourself. And on an 82 game season, it's hard to get the pros to want to do that for that long. But in a condensed 30 game season, like, no one's better. Pitino always wins. He wins everywhere he goes. It's because I think he gets people to buy into defense, and he gets people to buy into fitness and training. And then because think of it, you're making the game so hard for people. Like, that is really the secret sauce. I always thought that about Rick Pitino, that his the defensive strategy is so top notch. It's unbelievable.
What was the quote?
I'm going to the game tonight.
What was the quote from Jay Billis about you in the conference championship game? He said, you're going to have to work long and hard to find a player more dedicated than Tony Hayden.
To outwork. Yeah, you got it.
Tony Hayden. There you go, baby.
Exactly.
All right, fam. I got to roll.
Brother.
That was great. Tony, and I do appreciate you, because I needed some context, because sometimes I do feel like I'm going a little crazy. Because I
did hero worship. I kind of hero worship tonight as a kid, and I definitely.
But it's unhealthy, right? That we did.
I did. I sort of. I've evolved myself. I think that. I think he has. I think it's not. It wasn't completely healthy,
No.
Where I think Jay Wright's a better example of that. Jay Wright is extremely tough, but I think Jay worked harder on the relationship side, and I think he's really a great example of someone who threaded that needle.
Yes. All right, Tony Hayden.
So,
I appreciate you, brother.
All right. Thanks a lot, brother. See ya.
Man. Yeah, that was good. I needed somebody to kind of that was knowledgeable from my same school of thought, that Tony can kind of talk me a little bit down off of because I'm not healthy. I was watching that the other night, that video of him strangling Neil Reed and I'm like, yeah, it's not bad. So somebody who's a little younger, when you see that video, Scotty, what jumps out at you? Like, what's your instant emotion?
Honestly, I'm not too far away from where you guys are. I think certainly want to say that's never okay. Mm-hmm. And also want to say, I think that's the first time I've seen that video.
Yeah.
If not, it's the first time I've seen it in a very long time.
Yeah.
And it really is surprising how minimal it is for what that was blown up to be.
He didn't hit him with a closed fist or slap him. He was just kind of stopping him, but it was not okay.
And here's why I'm thankful for how that went. Is I feel like this is a best case scenario, and I hate to rub some salt in it for certain Baylor fans, but probably should have lost his job for that, but not been blacklisted from the sport forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So him then being able to go on and have a successful run at Texas Tech, Probably appropriate. Like,
what was that like when he would come to Waco coaching Texas?
Dude,
Tech?
I was very young, right? Like
Yeah.
he's been retired and gone for a long time now.
Yeah.
But it was intense. I mean, I remember that's Bobby Knight. Like he was kind of big time every time he was in town. I remember the excitement.
And you went to the games?
I did go see him coaching again. Yeah, at least one, if not multiple. I was younger. But I think it's there. The lesson there is like there should be consequences for your actions, but like in that case, I think it was justice served that he got another shot to coach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, totally. I agree.
I hope none of us, and I know you would feel this way too, based on our conversations. I hope, not to get too philosophical, but I hope none of us are judged in life by our absolute worst moment, especially like one like that, where it's just an impulse, like heat of the moment, quick mistake.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I'm thankful that he got to continue coaching and be in the Big 12 and all that after the fact.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I was even erring more, like I said, towards I got to watch myself. That's why it was good to have Tony on and good to talk to you about it. And next time I will include a therapist, because they would probably say, "You guys are all crazy." That's like the most wrong thing in the world. You can't put your hands on somebody, especially somebody who you've recruited to play for, and you've told their family you'll take care of them. But sometimes in this, I took a lot about. Away from, and by no means I'm comparing Kelvin Sampson and his approach to Bob Knight, because it's not even close. But the accountability, that's a love language for Kelvin Sampson that he communicates to his team, is almost like a beautiful thing. He said to me flat out, I tell these kids stuff that nobody else tells them. Nobody else tells them what I tell them, because people are scared to tell them the truth. And I love them. So that'll wrap it up for today. We'll be back tomorrow, the Pete Souza Show. Remember, we got 5,000 subscribers now, which is awesome. But like and subscribe, and keep listening, because we're trying to make it so we can be around for a long time. And the more people listen, the more we'll be around. So all good right now, trying to keep it rolling. Appreciate all the sponsors. We will see you tomorrow.
It's the Pete Souza Show.